I've haunted this house for 80 years. Then they summoned something that made me hide. I've been dead since 1938, and I can tell you that dying is easy. It's what comes after. That's the real bitch. A pop in my skull, a flash of white, then darkness. The man who showed up to collect me had a face like old parchment and smelled of dust. He said it was an aneurysm. He asked if I was ready. I told him to go fuck himself. I wanted to see my folks one more time. He just shrugged. Said not to linger too long, or the door might not open again. Now I wish he'd dragged me with him. It turns out being dead is a lot like being alive, just with more watching and a whole lot less doing. I watched my parents grow old in this house. Watched the grief carve new lines into their faces until they looked like strangers. They moved out in '60, leaving me with the peeling wallpaper and the silence. After them, others came. 14 families in 60 years. Some of them were a real good time. See, I learned pretty quick that being a ghost has its perks. A little nudge here, a whisper there. You can really get inside people's heads. The kids were the best. The little ones, their minds are still open, not all bricked up with logic. They could see me. To their parents, I was just Leo or Finn, their imaginary friend. But to them, I was real. And when they talked to me for a little while, I felt real too. Then there were the teenagers. My favorite, they'd bring their weird little gadgets. Ghost boxes, spirit radios, and the classic, the Ouija board. It's like they never thought to just talk. Just say, "Hey, is anyone here?" I'd have answered. But no, they had to make it a whole production. That's when the fun really started. I'd spell out absolute nonsense, make the planchette do circles until they got dizzy, whisper their secrets back at them through the static of their cheap radios. It was a good way to pass the decades. Fucking decades. Then the Novaks moved in, and for the first time since that pop in my head, I felt fear. Ilya's Novak worked down at the mill, came home every night smelling of hot metal and exhaustion, just like my dad used to. His wife, Mirella, seemed to float through the rooms, her eyes always fixed on the television, soaking up the screaming matches on daytime talk shows. I'd watch with her sometimes. The raw, stupid emotion of it all was like a meal, better than anything I'd had in years. Their kids, though, were a tough crowd. Iona, 16, was too busy texting boys to notice the cold spots in the hallway. Her younger brother, Luca, who was 12, thought he was some kind of junior scientist. Every floorboard creak, every flicker of a light, he'd have a rational explanation for it. There'd be no talking to them. I was sure of it. Then came the Halloween party that broke everything. The Novaks went out of town for a funeral. They left Iona in charge with a list of rules as long as my arm, the first one being no parties. So, naturally, she threw a party. A few of her friends, a few of Luca's. They brought cheap beer that made the floor sticky and played music so loud the window panes rattled. It felt alive in here. Then one of Iona's friends, a girl named Zora, pulled out a box. It wasn't a Parker Brothers toy. This board was made of some dark, almost black wood, the letters and symbols carved into it, not printed. It looked ancient. I felt a little thrill. This was going to be good. They all sat on the floor, and I got ready to put on a show. I'd spell out something nasty about the quarterback Iona liked, maybe make Luca jump. The usual stuff. But Zora wasn't playing. She didn't ask, "Is anyone there?" She closed her eyes. The room got quiet, the music suddenly feeling a million miles away. She put her hands on the planchette, and her voice was low, serious. "We do not seek the chatter of the lost," she said. "We do not seek the child of this house." My non-existent stomach clenched. "We call upon the one who waits behind the door, the one my grandmother named, Asmodai." The name didn't sound right coming out of her mouth. It was full of sharp edges and dry hisses, a word not meant for a human tongue. I didn't know the name, but the house did. The floorboards groaned. The air grew thick and heavy, like right before a lightning strike. It tasted of ozone and rotting flowers. A presence bled into the room from the board. It wasn't like me, I'm just an echo, a memory stuck on a loop. This thing was substantial. It was a patch of utter blackness in the corner of the room that seemed to drink the light. It didn't have a shape, but you could feel its weight, a pressure that made my spectral form feel like it was going to dissolve. "Spirit, are you with us?" Zora asked, her voice trembling just a little. The planchette didn't move. The thing in the corner just watched them. I could feel it sizing them up, like a butcher eyeing a side of beef. I'd scared kids before, made them cry, made them run. But I never wanted to hurt them. This thing, it wanted to do more than hurt. It wanted to unmake them. The thought made me sick. I pushed forward, pouring all my energy, everything I was, into that little piece of wood. The planchette shot across the board. "R-U-N? Run?" Iona whispered, her face pale. "Zora, what's happening?" "It's just the house ghost," Zora snapped, her eyes still locked on the board. "The trickster. Ignore him. Great One, we offer ourselves to your wisdom. Speak to us." The blackness in the corner stirred. It didn't have arms, but a tendril of pure shadow slithered out, impossibly long, and touched Luca on the shoulder. He shivered violently. Then another tendril touched Iona, and another, the others. They all went rigid, their backs ramrod straight, all except Zora, who was still hunched over the board, furious that her great spirit wasn't talking. "Speak to me," she demanded, shaking the board. "My grandmother said you would always." She finally looked up. The other kids were all smiling, not a normal smile. Their mouths were stretched too wide, the corners of their lips nearly touching their ears, pulling the skin on their cheeks tight. A thin trickle of blood dripped from Iona's chin where her jaw had dislocated. Luca and his friends started humming, a low buzzing harmony that vibrated in the floor. Their heads were cocked at the exact same unnatural angle. They all turned to look at Zora. The smiling girls stood up, their movements jerky and smooth at the same time, like broken puppets. I threw myself at the planchette again. "Get out. Leave. Now. Get out. Get out. Get out." Zora was reading my message, her mouth moving silently, her face a mask of confusion. Why would I run? He's a friend of the family. He would never. That's when the two girls grabbed her. They didn't push her. They lifted her effortlessly and laid her down on the Ouija board. She started to scream, a thin, pathetic sound that was swallowed by the buzzing hum from the boys. They descended on her, their fingers tracing patterns on her skin before they started to dig. I watched, helpless, as they pulled her apart. But there was no blood. Where they tore at her, she just flaked away, like old paper turning to dust and shadow. She, and then all the others, just folded inwards, collapsing into the darkness that had taken them over. They were absorbed, erased. The room was empty. The buzzing stopped. The pressure was gone. But the house was not the same. The thing hadn't left. It had settled. It was in the walls now. It was in the foundation. The closet at the end of the upstairs hall, a place I used to hide from my mother, now held a darkness so complete I couldn't bear to look at it. The police found nothing. An empty house, locked from the inside. A bowl of popcorn and some warm, flat soda. They called the kids runaways, then missing, then a mystery. A week later, Morella Novak was sitting on the floor in Iona's silent room, a bottle of cooking sherry beside her. She was just staring at that awful black board, which the police had left as evidence of nothing. I pitied her. I remembered the look on my own mother's face. I gathered what little strength I had left. I reached out. The planchette skittered across the wood. She gasped, her eyes wide and red-rimmed. It spelled out its message, slow and deliberate. IONAISGONE. She stared at it for a long time. Then the planchette moved again, my hand shaking. AMSORRR. I wanted to give her closure, but there is no closure for this. I just gave her a name for the thing that hunts in her daughter's empty room. I am no longer the ghost of this house. I am just its first prisoner. And I listen every night as it waits, hungry, behind the closet door,